Hey, I want to show you something real quick. Check this out. It's alive! It's alive! Introducing my homemade humidifier for the grow room. Now, I know this isn't the best visual because of the ultraviolet lights that are in here, but this bad boy is going to be my new humidifier. Hopefully you can see the mist coming out. What I have done is I've taken a 15-gallon tote bucket, I have drilled 2 holes, I have placed a fan that is waterproof that basically blows in air. Inside you can see a pond mister kicking off air, and then of course the tube that channels it. So normally these things right here kick off quite a bit of humidity, but they just kind of float around, hence the term pond fogger. Now it actually directs the fog, and it's working pretty well. Beforehand I was using that little piece of shit, and it really wasn't getting any humidity in here at all. Actually, the average humidity overall was around 28%, which was, you know, dry by even winter standards. I've got my little heater right there. This right here is the big culprit for dehumidity, of course. And of course I've got outflow air and I've got intake air that's always circulating in here, so that's pulling out moisture faster. These guys right here are my only blocks I've got currently. They're King Oyster substrate blocks. When I walked in here, it was around 20 some odd degrees. Humidity, that's the top one. It's already gone up to 31 since I installed it about a minute ago. It's at 63 degrees on the far end, so we're seeing some improvements. Now I actually have another pond fogger right here. It's a tiny one, and later tonight I'm gonna go get a better 3-prong extension cord. You can see this thing is built in like the 70s to supplement this bad boy, and hopefully we can get even more moisture. This is relegated by my humidistat right here. Ooh, so the humidistat already claims that it's 36 degrees humidity. When I walked in, again, it was in the low 20s, and that right there is the prong that tests for humidity. This thing would shut off this entire tool once it hits around 85. Just jumped up to 37. So that's my most recent invention. Actually, it's not an invention. I stole this idea from some folks off the interwebs. Update on the homemade humidifier. So the original design wasn't exactly working up to scale or up to snuff as to what I wanted it to be. Ideally, I want this room to be around 85 to 90 degrees humidity at any given time. So I did a couple upgrades. Number one, the extension cord that I was using, the measly one, I have upgraded with a much more heavy duty. As you can see, it has 4 separate sockets. It can be turned on and off easily right here. It's basically, it's also made for higher humidity too, so you know, it should work out much better than the other one, and I don't have to worry about potential power surges or anything, crap breaking out, that kind of stuff. So also, you can see a lot more humidity coming out of there. The reason is because I now have not one, well, you can't even see them too, not 2, but 3 pond foggers in there now. I've got the little bitty one that I first purchased along with 2 larger ones. And now it's actually kicking out quite a bit of humidity. Now, another thing, the little tube, well, you know, great in theory. In real world, I don't think it's quite as effective as I was really hoping it to be. Just to give you an example, here, see if I can't sit you right here. Give me a second to restructure this a bit. So as you can see, even with it being directed, it's still not kicking out quite as much as humidity as when I'm just have the lid on sideways. So I might just forego having it sitting like this for a while. The reason being, when I came this morning, the humidistat was reading 38 degrees, and I have actually this little tool right here that keeps a record of what's going on over the course of time. I plug into it every time I walk in here, and I don't know why, but since the beginning of this morning, the humidity basically went from somewhere in the 70s all the way down to 38 degrees. This was working just fine. I don't know why the humidity was dropping so rapidly, unless it probably has something to do with the relativity of the actual temperature, which is another problem I'm having. If you look at this guy again, the bottom set of numbers is the actual temperature gauge, and it reached low and high underneath that 63. You can see that the low in here recently was 39 degrees. So long story short, this thing just ain't cutting it. Now, this is an old school oil heater. It kicks out a temperature. It doesn't have a temperature reader on it, so it's kind of a playing around game. What I'm going to have to probably do is then buy, much like this humidistat, buy something equivalent for temperature reading, so that when this room gets to be, say, 55 degrees, this will shut off, or say 60 degrees, this will shut off, and when it gets any lower than 55 degrees, this will turn on. Hopefully, if I do that, I can keep a much better balance between humidity and temperature in here, because when I walked in this morning, all of my king oyster blocks were dry. Now I've got this little sprayer to kind of help kick them up a bit, but it's not gonna do the job. And I don't want to come in here twice a day just to have to spray this stuff down when I'm spending all this money and time getting these tools that are supposed to do the job for me. Anyway, we will see. Alright, third update on my homemade humidifier. As you might have noticed, there have been some slight modifications. So the first thing I did, well, let me actually backpedal a little bit. After I went ahead and took this lid and kind of put it on cattywampus, you saw lots of humidity coming out of this bad boy. Well, a day and a half later I come by and I noticed that this 15-gallon tote bucket, which was full when I left it, was empty. And both of the pond misters, all three of them actually, were sitting basically dry. And if you read the labels on these things, or the directions on those things, it's like the worst thing you want to do for them. So the reality was that it was kicking out way too much humidity, and it really wasn't being directed fully around the growing area. Effectively, the entire base was very misty, and this area was not so much. So I put the lid back on, took away one of the smallest mist fogger, or pond fogger, and then tried that. It was working all right, but the problem was that the tube that I had on here was not really getting the whole room humidity. It was pretty much just kind of, you know, pointing in one direction, getting that direction really humidified, and then everything else was just a little bit drier. Now, fortunately, I went ahead and bought another tube. This one, wider than the other one. The other one I think was around 2 inches. This one's 3 inches. I also made a larger opening for the hole there, and it's now doing pretty well. Now, the strange thing is that my humidistat said it's only 78 degrees in here. Well, sorry, 78 degrees or percent humidity, which is being read right there, which is pretty close to that. And then if you look over here, there we go. It says it's 99% humidity right there. And also my little gauge right here says it's around 70 some odd as well. So it's not perfect, but it's better than what I was having. Now the only downside is that I still have to fill this thing up with water usually once a day. So that's about 5 gallons that this thing goes through in a day, which is not ideal. I was really hoping to have 5 gallons last 3, maybe 4 days. But you know what? If the room is getting humidity, I'll take it. I mean, it definitely is. You can see, well, yeah, there's water pooling up over here. So I still, if I'm here, mist. But for the most part, my hoping is that this will finally turn out worth it. Well, anyway, that pretty much concludes this. I will either post where I got the materials and at what price point, or I'll put it in the comments, but you'll get that information. Anyway, thanks for watching. Bye. Alright, a quick follow-up to the homemade humidifier video. I want to show you something that is definitely in that not-to-do category. This is one of my 2 humidifiers, or pond foggers, pardon me, that I had in that. I came in this afternoon to refill That with its obligatory 5-day gallon water supply necessary to keep it going. And this dick, I mean, I have more choice words, but I'm going to use dick right now. When I last closed the lid, I'm not sure how it happened, but I had basically about a foot of this kind of just shoved in there, the wire, so that this pond fogger would have plenty of room to move around side to side, up and down. Well, it turned out that only that much was actually in there, and this portion right here was being basically pinched by the lid. So when I came in this morning, this was hanging like this, open in a jar, and it is now not working. So I'm going to see if I can't fix it. If not, I'm going to see if there's any way to get a refund, because that is $44 of dick right there that I want to recoup. Anyway, I'm not going to probably follow up on that. Everything else that I posted regarding this video I think is pretty good to at least start up on your own. And I finished off with a little what not to do situation. So, you know, unintended benefit there, I guess, for you all anyway. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Bye.